Long ago, before Nanyase made war on the Tindanes and forged the Kingdom of Dagbon, there lived a superhuman hunter of remarkable strength called Tohazie, the Red Hunter. His skin was the color of parched earth and hair like a dying fire. He lived alone, deep in the sandstone caves of Mali, surviving on his unmatched skill with the bow, arrow, and spear. In the savannah, he was the apex. He hunted, and the wild provided. A severe drought came over the land of Mali, turning it into a place of thirst and suffering, such that you could not hear laughter in any house. The pools where Tuaji usually got his water had dried up, and he was thirsty. So he left his cave and wandered around in search of water, eventually arriving at the compound of an old woman called Mali Bakrugu. He greeted her and asked for some water, but she pointed to her children and grandchildren who lay half dead from thirst in the compound, and told Tohazie that they too had not had any water to drink for a long time. Bakrugu told Tohazie that there was a lake on the outskirts of the town. However, a wild bull with one horn had taken it over, and it attacked anyone who dared to approach the lake. So the townspeople lived in thirst and fear. Tohazie asked to be taken to the lake, but the people of the town were so scared to take him, they only gave him directions to get there. So Tohazie set out for the lake by himself, with 4 calabash pots, and armed with his bow, arrows, and spear. He arrived at the lake and looked around. All was quiet and calm. But the moment he dipped the calabash into the water, the wild bull emerged from the nearby bushes and charged at him. Tohazie moved like a dancer. He evaded the charge, fending off the horn with his spear. When the distance was right, he reached for his bow. One shot, and the bull dropped dead. He cut off the bull's tail as proof of his deed and carried the life-giving water back to the dying town. Upon seeing the tail and the water, Bakrugu rejoiced. The townspeople hurried to fetch water from the lake and dragged the dead bull back into town. They celebrated with drumming and made a great feast of the bull's meat. The chief invited Tohazie to his courts to thank him for his service. He entertained Tohazie for a few days before sending him off with many presents. Tohazie bade Bakrugu farewell and set off back into the wild towards his cave. Bakrugu, however, sent 3 of her grandsons to follow Tohazie secretly to find out where he lived. She gave them some pumpkin seeds, and they followed him, planting the seeds in his wake all the way up to his cave. Within weeks, the vines grew, stretching from the hunter's cave all the way back to the old woman's gate. This way, she could always call on him when she needed him. Months later, when the town was losing a war against neighboring tribes, the chief sought Tohazie's help. Bakrugu's grandsons followed the pumpkin vines to the cave and summoned the hunter. Tohazie returned to the town, ready to fight. He stepped out alone to meet the enemy, and the sight of him alone put such fear into them that they all fled. But Tohazie pursued them and killed a great many of them, ensuring total victory. The chief was overjoyed by the victory and offered Tohazie his pick among his daughters. Tohazie checked them out, one after the other, his eyes finally settling on a lame woman called Pawobga, and he chose her to be his wife. The chief begged Tohazie to stay and lead his armies, but Tohazie refused. Instead, he hoisted his new wife into his arms and carried her back into the shadows of the wild. Tohazie, having brought Pawobga home, started showing her his way of life. He showed her the surrounding terrain and where she could find various things. Then he gave her the specific warning not to fetch water from the pool nearest to the cave. Instead, he directed her to fetch from the pools a little further away, and Pawobga agreed. They lived in harmony, with Tohazie going out each day to hunt, and Pawobga making delicious meals from what he had caught. She eventually became pregnant and gave birth to their son, Nimbu. Nimbu was born with severe defects. He had one eye, one ear, and one arm. Yet he possessed the strength and vigor of his father, even as a baby. Nimbu also had mysterious and supernatural qualities about him, but Tohazie and Pawobga loved him all the same and took care of him. One day, while Tohazie was out hunting, Pawobga grew exhausted from the baby Nimbu's constant crying. And when it came time for her to cook, she felt too tired to make the long trip, and she fetched water from the forbidden pool to cook. After cooking, she served Tohazie's food and set it aside at her sitting place. Then she ate her portion and dropped dead shortly afterwards. Tohazie returned home at night, tired and hungry from the hunt. As soon as he saw his food, he dropped his things and started eating, neglecting to look for his wife. It was only after he had finished eating that he saw his wife's body. Alarmed, Tohazie carried Pawobga and tried to take her out of the cave to resuscitate her, but he fell down, weakened by the tainted food. He also died shortly afterwards. And so, the Red Hunter and the crippled princess lay side by side with their one-eyed, one-armed baby, left as the only witness to their deaths. Nimbu started crying, and his cries echoed in the cave, traveling out into the wild savanna of Mali. Who was going to watch over this boy now that his parents were gone? What would become of him? The age of the wild hunter had passed, and the young Nimbu would have to grow up and face the world all by himself.